Welcome to Dreamy Sleep Tales. Tonight, I invite you to journey with me to a secluded mountain cabin cradled by mist and rain. A place where the boundary between our world and the world of dreams softly dissolves. Imagine a cozy bedroom. Wide glass walls reveal a universe of emerald treetops, all glistening under a gentle shower. The wooden floor beneath you is warm. The scent of pine and rain fills the air, and a single soft lamp casts a golden halo across the quilted bed. This is where our story begins. Aara hugged her knees as she sat cross-legged on the plush rug beside the bed. Outside, the rain drummed a steady lullaby against the glass. She had come here to stay with her grandmother for the entire autumn break, somewhere far from the clamoring streets of the city and the memories that clung to them like stubborn cobwebs. Her grandmother's cabin sat perched on a gentle slope, overlooking a valley shrouded in mist. Each log in its walls seemed steeped in stories, and every creak of the floorboards carried a whisper from decades past. Aara loved how the cabin felt alive, as though it breathed with the forest, inhaling pine needles and exhaling warmth. "I promise you'll feel better here," her grandmother had said, her eyes twinkling. "The mountains heal what the city hurts." Aara wasn't sure she believed it yet, but the steady rhythm of rain and the low hum of wind through the pines did soothe a place inside her she hadn't known was aching. By late afternoon, the bedroom was already blooming with soft light. A thick down comforter lay on a low platform bed. A steaming cup of chamomile tea waited on the bedside table, and a pair of woolen slippers peeked out from under the bench at the foot of the mattress. Drapes the color of autumn leaves framed the glass doors that led out to a small veranda where a single wooden chair stood, droplets gathering on its arms like tiny jewels. Aara took a sip of tea. Its honeyed warmth spread from her lips down to her chest. She pressed her forehead against the cool glass. The valley beyond seemed to breathe in time with her own heartbeat. Tall cedars swayed gently. Distant hills melted into mist. This place was a cradle, and every drop of rain was a tender, rocking motion. That first night, Aara fell into a deep slumber. Her dreams were simple, drifting among cloud-soft pillows, laughter echoing through invisible halls. She woke just before dawn to the ritual of rain, a sound like silk sliding across the sky. It was on her second night that she first noticed something unusual. At exactly 9:09 p.m., as the grandfather clock in the hall chimed softly, the edges of the window pane glowed ever so faintly. It wasn't a bright light, more like the gentle flicker of candle flame seen through smoke. The glow danced along the frame, tracing the pattern of the wooden lattice. Aara sat up, heart fluttering. She rubbed her eyes, certain she must be imagining things. Yet as the clock's final note faded, a whisper drifted in on the breeze. A voice so soft, she thought it might be part of a dream. Seek the shimmer. She strained to hear more, but the wind shifted, dragging the whisper away. The glass darkened again. Shaking, Aara clutched her comforter. What was that? A trick of light, a wisp of wind. She closed her eyes, measured 3 breaths, and allowed sleep to reclaim her. Though this time, her dreams were edged with a curious restlessness. When she woke the next morning, the world outside was drenched in silver light. Droplets hung like stars on every leaf. Aara dressed quietly and descended the narrow staircase to the kitchen, where her grandmother hummed over breakfast. The old woman's hair was as white as winter's first snow, and her hands moved with the surety of someone who had lived many lives. "Good morning, darling," she said, setting a plate of blueberry pancakes before Aara. "How did you sleep?" "Fine." Aara hesitated. "Grandma, last night, did you see the window glow around 9:09? Her grandmother smiled, pouring syrup in a slow spiral. "Ah, I wondered when you'd notice. It happens on nights when the forest needs a listener." "Needs a listener?" Aara repeated. Her grandmother nodded, eyes soft. "This cabin has stood here long enough to hold secrets. The window isn't ordinary glass. It's a threshold. It opens only when someone's heart is ready." Before Aara could ask more, the phone rang with a lone trill. The moment the bell stopped, both stood still, as if obeying an unseen cue. Then her grandmother sighed, the weight of years in her breath. We'll talk about it more tonight, she said. Finish your breakfast, child, and explore the veranda. Let the rain sing to your spirit. We'll talk about it more tonight, she said. Finish your breakfast, child, and explore the veranda. Let the rain sing to your spirit. All day, Aara tried to focus on simple tasks, stacking firewood, watering the ferns near the front porch, pressing her fingers into the cold wrought iron of the railing. But her mind kept drifting back to the glowing window and her grandmother's words. Threshold, forest, listener. As dusk fell and the cabin lights flicked on, Aara felt a thrill and a tremor in her chest. Would it really open? Night settled over the cabin like a velvet cloak. Aara lay awake beneath the soft weight of her blanket, the familiar scent of pine and rain wrapping her in a sense of quiet anticipation. She kept one eye on the clock. 8:55. 8:56. Her heart thudded gently in her chest as the rain pattered against the window pane. Each drop a tiny drumbeat counting down to 9:09. At 8:59, she sat up, pulling her grandmother's old shawl around her shoulders. The glow that had teased her twice before now felt like a promise she could no longer ignore. She crept from the bed, bare feet brushing the polished wood floor, and stood before the great glass panes. Outside, the forest lay in shadow, but the rain danced in silver arcs through the porch light. 9:03, 9:04. Aara's breath became slow and steady, as if she were reciting her own private mantra. The cabin hummed with expectation. The grandfather clock chimed 9, and at the final note, the edges of the window began to quiver with light. Aara's heart soared and stilled all at once. The glow pulsed, gentle and rhythmic, as though the window itself were breathing. A soft chorus of whispers drifted through the glass. Faint, layered voices speaking in a language just beyond recognition. Aara pressed her palm flat against the cool surface. The wood frame vibrated beneath her fingers. Then, like the opening of a flower at dawn, the center of the glass rippled inward, though there was no breeze to explain it. The pane parted as if liquid, folding back to reveal a threshold into another realm. Beyond, the forest was bathed in pale green light, and the rain had ceased altogether. Aara's pulse thundered in her ears. Yet her body felt buoyant, buoyed by wonder rather than fear. She slid her feet into woolen socks and stepped forward. The air on the other side was different, crisp and infused with the scent of moss and something sweetly floral. She inhaled deeply, tasting magic on her tongue. The wooden floor of her veranda gave way to a carpet of living moss, soft and springy beneath her soles. In the silvery glade before her, rain-soaked ferns curled at the edges of a winding path that led toward towering trees with trunks wide enough to cradle a cottage. Mist curled around their bases like playful spirits. Aara swallowed and stepped fully through the window. The glass shimmered shut behind her, leaving only the whisper of wind and a single glowing orb hovering in the air where the window had been. She reached out, touched it, and it pulsed once, twice, then drifted upward like a captive firefly, illuminating the forest's heart. For a moment, she simply stood, eyes wide. Then, from a cluster of toadstools nearby, a figure emerged. A fox, but not like any fox she had ever seen. Its fur was the color of moonlight, and it flickered at the edges as though woven from mist. Its eyes gleamed like amber lanterns, and as it stepped forward, each of its paws left a trail of tiny glowing runes on the moss. The fox tilted its head, regarding her with calm, ancient curiosity. Aara's breath caught. She crouched low to seem less threatening. The creature did not retreat. Instead, it padded closer and lowered its head in a gesture that felt almost like a bow. "Hello," Aara whispered. Her voice sounded small beneath the canopy of leaves, but somehow the forest heard and gave answer. The fox's tail swished, brushing aside a droplet of dew that fluttered to the ground in a soft chime. Aara realized then that she could hear the forest's heartbeat, subtle pulses of life in every root and branch. She closed her eyes, listening as the fox led her along the winding path. The runes beneath its paws glowed steadily, lighting the way. Above them, phosphorescent flowers unfurled in silent splendor, their petals drifting like snowflakes. They reached a clearing where a small pool of water mirrored the sky, even though no sky was visible beyond the treetops. In the pool's center floated a single blossom, translucent as crystal, its petals aglow with inner light. This is the moonlit iris. The fox's voice echoed in her mind, gentle and distant. It blooms once every 100 years to guide a true-hearted traveler. Aara knelt beside the pool, breath visible in the cool air. "Why me?" she asked, though she already sensed the answer, her longing for healing, her willingness to listen. The blossom stirred, its glow intensifying, and the surface of the water rippled, revealing images. Aara's childhood laughter echoing in city parks, the crisp fear she felt at her mother's absence, the quiet strength she'd carried to reach this cabin. Tears pricked Aara's eyes. The iris's glow softened, and the fox padded forward, nose nuzzling her hand. Comfort washed through her like a warm tide. She realized she had come here not to escape her grief, but to carry it into this forest and learn its gentle magic. "Aara," the fox said aloud this time, its voice like distant bells. "Your journey has begun. The forest will teach you its truths. Kindness in unexpected places, the beauty of tears, and the hope that blossoms in darkness. Follow the runes, trust the whispers, and you will find what your heart seeks." The fox turned, stepping back onto the rune-lit path. Aara rose, resolve strengthening within her chest. She would walk this forest night after night, unraveling the mysteries pressed into its bark and hidden beneath its leaves. For here, in the realm beyond the whispering window, she would find healing, and perhaps learn how to carry its magic back into her own world. Together, they walked deeper into the silent light, the moonlit iris fading from sight, but shining brightly within Aara's heart. And as she ventured onward, the window in the cabin stood watch, ready to guide her home when her journey was done. Aara and the moonlit fox ventured deeper into the forest, where the ancient trees arched overhead to form a living cathedral. Bioluminescent vines draped from their branches, weaving a tapestry of soft green light. Moss-carpeted roots cradled hidden pools that glowed like opals, and in the distance, a low, melodic hum beckoned them onward. "Listen," whispered the fox. Its voice blended with the quiet murmur of the woods. something stirs among the clouds above. Aara tilted her head, puzzled. Clouds? But there's no sky here. The fox pointed its muzzle upward. There, suspended like islands in an endless dome of mist, floated drifting clouds, each one tethered to the world below by silvery threads of rain. They pulsed with gentle light, and the hum grew louder, rising and falling like a song. Cloud whales, the fox explained, ancient guardians of the dream sky. Tonight, one is in distress. Aara's eyes widened with wonder. The largest of the clouds began to tremble, its form coalescing into the silhouette of a great whale. Its eyes, vast pools of thunder, blinked with confusion and sorrow. It drifted close enough that Aara could see the unmistakable curve of its baleen, delicate as spun glass. The moonlit fox bowed low. Great seaters of the dream clouds, why do you lament? The whale's song drifted into Aara's mind, a haunting melody of longing and loss. She felt every ripple of the whale's grief. It had wandered too far from its pod and could not find the silken path that led back. Your song is beautiful, Aara murmured softly, but your heart aches. I will help you find your way. The whale's eyes filled with luminescent hope. Beneath its vast body, the rain threads writhed like ribbons in a storm, obscuring the path home. Aara knelt on a smooth stone, drew a steadying breath, and closed her eyes. She reached out with her inner ear to the forest's heartbeat, the pulse of every creature, cloud and leaf. Slowly, she discovered a faint rhythm hidden beneath the whale's cries, an undertone of harmony that matched her own breath. She exhaled softly and hummed a gentle tune, weaving her voice into the whale's lament. The runes along the forest floor glowed brighter, rippling outward in concentric circles of light. Cetus paused as though listening for the first time. Encouraged, Aara hummed again, matching the whale's melody note for note. Her grandmother's voice whispered in her memory, in the language of the heart, even the most distant soul can be reached. She remembered the lullabies they once shared, the comforting cadence of her grandmother's song. With each note, the threads of rain began to align, forming a shimmering bridge trailing back toward the forest's edge. The whale's hum turned from sorrow to gratitude, and the runes lit a path in the sky like guiding stars reflected in the air. Follow the light, noble Cetus, Aara called, opening her eyes. The whale inclined its great head and lifted itself along the glowing rain threads. Aara rose too, stepping onto the first rune as it pulsed beneath her foot, guiding her gaze upward. In that moment, a flock of smaller cloud whales emerged from the mist, trailing luminous ribbons of their own. They circled the lost giant, their songs weaving together into a chorus of homecoming. The sky threads braided into a gentle spiral, carrying the family of whales toward the horizon of dreams. Aara watched as the last of the whales drifted beyond sight, their harmonies fading into a distant echo. The forest sighed in relief. Petals unfurled, moss shimmered, and the air itself seemed lighter. The fox pressed its head against Aara's hand. You have learned your first lesson, Aara. Empathy can guide even the most lost soul back to where it belongs. Aara exhaled, a warm sense of accomplishment blossoming in her chest. Thank you, she whispered to the night sky. And thank you, friend. She stroked the fox's silken fur. Together they followed the rune-lit path back toward the heart of the forest, where further wonders awaited. Above them, the clouds resumed their gentle drift, guardians once more at peace in the dream sky. And in the hush that followed, Aara carried with her the soft echo of whale song, a reminder that listening with one's heart can illuminate the darkest paths. Aara and the moonlit fox followed the rune-lit path until the forest opened into a vast clearing. Here, the trees stood farther apart, their branches woven into an arch overhead like the ribs of a grand cathedral. But something was amiss. What should have been a shimmering pond lay cracked and dry, its cracked clay bottom etched with fissures. The air felt heavy and parched, and the usual chorus of frogs and night insects was eerily silent. This was once the spring of sighs, the fox whispered. Home to Mora, the rain spirit who tends the woodland tears. But when he lost the memory of sorrow, his tears stopped, and the spring dried. Aara knelt at the edge of the basin, tracing a fissure with her fingertip. The clay was warm under her palm, as if baked by an unforgiving sun. Why would a spirit forget how to cry? She wondered aloud. At that moment, a rustling sound drifted from the far end of the clearing. A slender figure emerged, a tall, graceful being draped in robes that looked spun from storm clouds. His hair was dark as a gathering sky, and his eyes glimmered like distant rain clouds. Yet his face was drawn, etched with lines of frustration rather than peace. In his hand he carried an empty shell, once a conch that channeled rain, now cracked and silent. "Don't look at me," he snapped, voice brittle. "I have no tears left to give." Aara rose and stepped forward, gentle resolve shining in her eyes. "I'm Aara. I came to help Cetus find his way home. Now I want to help you." Morin's jaw clenched. "Help me? I've searched for my tears for a century. They vanished when I stopped feeling loss. Why should I trust you?" Aara's heart ached for him. This spirit whose power was bound to sorrow, yet had grown afraid of it. "Because maybe you need a kind heart to remind you why tears matter," she replied softly. She knelt at the conch, brushing away a swirl of dust. "Tell me about the first time you cried," Aara encouraged. "What made your tears flow?" Morin's shoulders shook with a tremor he tried to hide. Slowly, his voice softened as he remembered. "Long ago," he began, staring at the empty shell, "I watched a fawn and its mother play in the rain. The mother slipped on a slick stone and fell. The fawn cried, and I felt such sorrow, so deep, my tears fell into the spring, giving it life." His gaze flicked to the cracked basin. "But one day, I watched children laughing near the forest's edge. They ran without a care and I envied them. I shut away my sadness, thinking joy was enough. But joy cannot fill clay cracks." Aara nodded. "Tears aren't a sign of weakness. They're a gift. Each one cleanses and nourishes." She took a slow breath and closed her eyes. She thought of her own tears when she felt her mother's absence most keenly. How each drop had eased the ache in her chest. Remembering that ache summoned a single, trembling tear to her own cheek. Mora's eyes widened as he watched her. His own tear ducts fluttered, but none came. "Go on," she urged. Let yourself feel it. Aara placed her hand on Maureen's arm. Her warmth spread like a gentle rain. Allow the memory to wash over you. Fear, loss, love. Let them flow. For a long moment, Maureen stood silent. Then, with a shuddering inhale, a single tear escaped his eye. It splashed into the dust at his feet, and instantly, a droplet of water welled up in the basin's deepest crack. The dry clay drank thirstily, darkening where the drop fell. Morin closed his eyes, and another tear followed. This time 2, 3, until a steady trickle streamed down his cheeks. Each tear echoed with a soft chime, and where they fell, water pooled and spread. Within seconds, the cracked basin filled, rippling in gentle waves. Aara stepped back with the fox as the spring of sighs roared back to life. Water bubbled and spilled over the rim, filling the clearing with the fresh scent of rain and moss. Morin lowered the conch to the water. It healed before their eyes, the crack mending as if stitched by invisible stitches. He lifted it to his lips and blew a soft note, like the distant cry of a morning breeze, and rain began to fall all around them. The droplets danced across fern fronds and kissed the treetops, each one a testament to the power of honest feeling. Morin's shoulders relaxed, and relief shone in his cloudy eyes. "Thank you, Aara," he murmured. "You reminded me that tears can heal what laughter alone cannot." Aara smiled, her own heart light. "You taught me that sorrow has its own gentle magic." As the rain spirit lifted his voice in a melody that stirred the very soul of the woods, Aara and the moonlit fox watched the forest awaken, shimmering with renewed life. And in the soft patter of rain, Aara heard the echo of her own healing journey, a promise that even forgotten tears can lead to unimagined growth. Aara awoke in the heart of the dream forest to dawn's pale glow, filtering through emerald leaves. She and the moonlit fox had rested beside the spring of sighs, entranced by the gentle rain. Now, the fox nudged her awake with warm encouragement. "Your next lesson awaits at the heart of the silver grove," it whispered, voice like wind chimes. "An ancient tree there longs for the bloom that will save its life. A last moonflower lost for 1,000 years." Aara stood, breath shallow, with anticipation. She tightened her shawl and followed the fox along winding paths lit by soft fungus lanterns. The air grew fragrant with night blooming jasmine, and firefly clusters floated like living lanterns overhead. Soon they emerged into a vast clearing dominated by a massive silver-barked tree. Its gnarled trunk split into dozens of skeletal limbs, and its roots arched above the ground like hollow ribs. Above, ghostly vines hung heavy with unopened buds, dark and lifeless. The entire grove felt suspended in sorrow, as though time itself had paused in mourning. Once every century, the fox explained, the moonflower, pure and pale, would bloom here beneath the first full moon of autumn. Its light healed the tree and renewed the grove. But the seed was stolen long ago, and no bloom has graced these branches since. Aara's heart ached for the silent sentinel. Where can we find the seed? She asked. The fox lifted its head, whiskers trembling. In the cavern of luminous echoes, beyond the moonlit falls. But beware, the cavern tests a wanderer's courage and compassion. Only a tender heart may claim the seed. Together, they hurried toward the distant roar of cascading water. Moonlit falls tumbled into a crystalline pool that glowed with silver blue light. A narrow path wound behind the waterfall, slick with mist. Aara inhaled deeply and stepped through, droplets sparkling like diamonds around her. Behind the curtain of water lay a stony corridor. The walls pulsed with bioluminescent moss, illuminating carvings, ancient stories of forest guardians and heroic children. In the deepest chamber, a single pedestal stood beneath a shaft of moonlight that filtered through a fissure above. Resting on the pedestal was a small, glowing orb, the moonflower seed. Its surface rippled with soft light, and around it lay a circle of protective thorns woven from living vines. Aara approached slowly. The seed's glow warmed her palms even before she touched it. But as soon as she reached out, the thorned vines shivered to life, curling into a barrier. The cavern's light dimmed, and a chorus of echoes whispered warnings. Only the pure may claim the bloom. Her heart pounded. She remembered Morin's tears and the whale's song, lessons of empathy and vulnerability. Closing her eyes, she spoke softly to the vines. I do not seek power or glory. I seek only to heal the ancient tree, to restore hope to its world. Her voice was gentle but unwavering. The vines paused, their motions becoming fluid rather than defensive. A single blossom unfurled at the base of the pedestal, a petite moonflower glowing with full luminescence. Its light intertwined with the seed, and the thorns softened, parting to form a gentle arch. Aara placed her hands beneath the seed and lifted it free, feeling its weightless promise settle into her chest. Around her, the cavern sighed as if relieved. The walls brightened, and the moss flared into brilliant life. A low hum resonated through the chamber, gratitude from the forest's hidden heart. Clutching the seed, Aara retraced her steps behind the waterfall, the moonlit fox guiding her safely back to the silver grove. There, at the base of the ancient tree, she knelt and pressed the seed into a small hollow in the roots. Its glow spread out like ink, dropped into clear water, illuminating every branch and bud. A soft breeze stirred the clearing, and the grove held its breath. Then slowly, the moonflower bud beside her unfurled in a slow ceremonial bloom. Its petals were translucent as morning mist, emitting a gentle silver light that washed over the tree's bark. Cracks in the wood mended before Aara's eyes. New leaves unfurling where lifeless limbs once reached skyward. The entire grove hummed with revived energy. Dormant seeds beneath the soil quivered, ready to sprout. The moonlit fox padded forward and pressed its nose against the tree's trunk. You have learned the forest's final lesson, Aara. Hope endures even in the darkest times when one is willing to seek and nurture it. Aara laid a hand on the silver bark, feeling warmth pulse like a living heartbeat. Thank you, she whispered. I will carry this hope with me always. Around them, the grove blossomed into radiance. Fireflies danced on newly unfurled leaves. Blossoms opened in waves of color. The air thrummed with life, renewed. And though the moonflower's glow would guide her home, Aara knew that a piece of the forest's magic now lived within her, an everlasting reminder that empathy, vulnerability, and hope could heal even the oldest wounds. Under the soft glow of the moonlit trees, Aara and the moonlit fox returned once more to the clearing, where the great window glimmered like liquid silver. The air was still, almost reverent, as if the forest itself awaited her next step. The fox paused beside the threshold and spoke in its gentle, bell-like voice. Beyond this window lies your home, and here stands the guardian of the dream realm. He will offer you a choice: remain among these wonders forever, or return to the world you know. Make your decision from the heart, for magic honors honesty. Aara's chest tightened at the thought. She gazed through the open pane at her cabin's familiar bedroom. The bed draped in soft quilts, the lamp's warm circle of light, the storm's lullaby still audible through glass. Behind her stretched the dream world she had come to cherish, the cathedral of trees, the revived silver grove, the echo of whale song still humming low in her memory. Before her, emerging from the ripple of light, strode a figure tall as the trees themselves. Cloaked in starlight, his eyes held galaxies, wisdom born of countless dreamers who had walked this realm. His presence was not frightening, but immense, a blend of comfort and awe. "Welcome, Aara," he intoned, voice deep as distant thunder, yet soft as falling dew. "You have walked paths of shadow and song, learned the language of tears and hope, and restored life to places long forgotten. Tonight, I offer you two journeys." He raised a hand, and two orbs appeared before her eyes, one shimmering with the soft gold of dawn, the other glowing silver blue like the moonlit forest. "This orb," he said, nodding toward the gold, "will lead you back through the whispering window, carrying the forest's magic into your world. There, you will awaken at dawn, heart brimming with newfound strength and the gift of gentle wonder. But you must never again return to these woods, for dream realms and waking worlds must remain apart." He gestured to the silver orb. "Choose this, and you will become a guardian of dreams, your spirit interwoven with the forest. You will walk here always, guiding other true-hearted travelers. But the sun will rise in your absence, and those you leave behind may believe you lost forever." Aara's breath caught. She thought of her grandmother's cabin, the hearth's warmth, the comfort of old stories, the promise of healing that brought her here. Yet she also remembered the vale's grateful gaze, the rain spirit's tears, the moonflower's bloom, and every soft murmur of the forest that had soothed her own sorrow. Her heart felt as though it spanned two worlds. She closed her eyes and listened to the forest's heartbeat, recalling the lessons it had gently imparted. Empathy for the lost, courage to feel sorrow, hope to renew what was broken. She remembered the child in her who once felt alone, and how the dream world had wrapped her in kindness. When she opened her eyes, tears glistened on her lashes, but they were tears of clarity, not doubt. She stepped forward and gently touched the golden orb. It pulsed with warmth beneath her fingertips, as though welcoming her choice. "I choose life," she whispered, voice steady yet soft. "I carry your magic with me, but I must also bring it to those I love." The silver figure bowed, sorrow and pride blending in his gaze. "So it shall be. Remember always the forest's voice, that in every raindrop, every bloom, there lies a story waiting to be heard." With a final nod, the guardian lifted the silver blue orb, and it dissolved into a cascade of soft light that filled the clearing. The golden orb hovered before Aara, bright as a new day. The world shifted around Aara in a gentle whirl of light and sound. She felt weightless, suspended between sleep and waking. The forest's breath on her skin and her grandmother's quilt beneath her head. Then, as softly as the closing of a storybook, she opened her eyes to her own bedroom. Rain still tapped the glass, but now it sounded deeper, richer, as if infused with undiscovered melodies. The lamp glowed in its usual spot, but its light seemed infused with a shimmering warmth she had never noticed before. Aara sat up, heart brimming. She reached for the bedside table and found, nestled beside her empty teacup, a single moon petal, translucent as mist, faintly silver. She smiled, tears of joy and wonder sprinkling down her cheeks. This was her token, the forest's gift, to remind her that though the journey had ended, its magic would live on in her world. Downstairs, her grandmother called, voice light with curiosity. Aara hurried to the kitchen, clutching the moon petal in her palm. Her grandmother set fresh pancakes before her and saw the glow in her eyes. "You're home," she said simply, as though she had known the moment would come. "Did you find what you sought?" Aara nodded, placing the moon petal on the table. "More than I ever dreamed," she replied. "I learned that listening with your heart can guide others, that tears can heal, and that hope blooms even in the darkest places." Her grandmother smiled, reaching across to squeeze her hand. "Then the forest has found a good guide in you." Outside, the storm softened to a whisper. Aara stepped to the window and pressed her palm to the glass, feeling the faintest pulse of warmth. The emerald canopy beyond seemed to shimmer in reply, and for a moment she thought she heard a soft "thank you" carried on the breeze. That night, as she lay beneath the comforter, Aara closed her eyes and let the new melodies wash over her. In dreams, she wandered among living trees, helped distant souls find their way, and bathed in silver moonlight that sounded like laughter. When dawn came, she awoke with the forest's echo still humming in her heart. And as she rose to greet the day, rain-washed and bright, she carried the whispering window's magic into every moment. In the kindness of her words, the compassion in her actions, and the quiet knowing that even the smallest gesture can open a doorway to wonder. So, dear listeners, thank you for joining me on tonight's journey beyond the whispering window. I hope Aara's adventures have filled your hearts with gentle wonder and sweet dreams. If you found comfort in the rain-kissed forests, the song of the cloud veil, or the bloom of the moonflower, please give this video a like and share it with anyone who could use a little magic in their bedtime routine. Don't forget to subscribe to Dreamy Sleep Tales and hit the bell icon so you'll never miss our next story, where we'll explore new realms of tranquility and wonder. I'd love to hear your thoughts. Which part of Aara's journey resonated most with you? Leave your favorite moment in the comments below and let me know if there's a dream realm you'd like us to visit next. Your ideas shape our tales, and together we'll weave stories that soothe, inspire, and heal. Rest well, dream deeply, and remember, even in the stillness of night, There is a world of magic waiting just beyond the whisper of a raindrop. Until next time, sweet dreams.